Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Savvy Ladies Wednesday Wisdom webinar. I'm Maggie Montemuro, and I'm the marketing coordinator at Savvy Ladies. I'd like to remind you that if you have any questions during this webinar, you can type them into the chat box. If you're joining us by phone, please email your question to info@savvyladies.org. Today's presenter is Shurnette Henry, Managing Partner at Papillon Financial. Shurnette has over 15 years of experience in financial services. She is passionate about financial education and empowering individuals on wealth building. Shurnette is co-creator of Papillon's proprietary wealth coaching program, PEAK, Proactively Educating and Acquiring Knowledge, where she guides people through wealth management strategies. Thank you for being with us today, Shurnette, and I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Maggie. I am really pleased and really grateful to be on another Savvy Ladies webinar. I will always say that I think what you're doing to really disseminate good information about wealth building to the masses is just a wonderful and very needed thing to do. And to everyone who's on the call today, it is so difficult in the line of work that I do, and for as long as I have been doing it, I have witnessed people just have such a difficult time talking about money, even thinking about money. So the fact that you're on the call today, I think you should give yourselves a little pat on the back, because just gaining knowledge is the first step into really gaining what you want out of life. So congratulations. I wanted to talk today about the power of product matching. And the reason why is because it's been something that's been on my heart to really roll up my sleeves and dig a little deeper into. Because as I work with people on a daily basis, so often I have individuals ask me questions that to me are very, very, they're very simple. And I'm surprised that the person wouldn't know. But because I know so many people who don't do what I do every day, really wouldn't necessarily pick up a book or watch TV and learn something about finance, it's very logical that you wouldn't know if you're not in the field. And life is so busy that you wouldn't know. And what it is that people are coming to me and asking me about often are the different kinds of accounts and products that they should be investing in for their own personal situation and for their future. So I wanted to take time to just break it down and to get people to think around not eating the whole elephant all at once, really, because there are so many products out there that individuals tend to get overwhelmed, and therefore people end up doing nothing. So hopefully today you'll learn a little something about the different types of accounts that you can be investing in based on your situation, and you will lower some of the anxiety that you might feel around finance and the next steps that you should be taking in order to start something for yourself. So I'm just going to go to the next slide. So again, my firm is Papillon Financial. We are located here in New York, Manhattan, New York, and we service individuals and small businesses around general portfolio management, managing people's different accounts based on what it is that they need and investing according to their life situation. What I also do, as Maggie had mentioned, is that I coach individuals around the fundamentals of financial management. Education is key, and knowledge is really the route to success in anything that we do. So my business partner, Dana Wilson, and I have taken a very, very active approach to helping people truly learn about finance and how they can therefore be successful with their own financial goals. What sets us apart is that we take a holistic approach to wealth building by using a scientific tool. And if you were on the webinar that I did about a month ago with Savvy Ladies, I talked a lot about temperament. We designed a program where we help people understand their money habits and their relationship with their money by understanding their temperament and their tendencies, and therefore how that ties into how they're currently managing their money today. So that's a little about what we do. So before I really start with this next slide, um, I think of the analogy of going into a Century 21 store. I will admit I love shopping, responsibly, of course, but I love Century 21, though I will not go into that store too often because it just gets so overwhelming because you have probably every product line and every designer housed in one large space that you don't, if you didn't go in there with a specific item that you know you already wanted ahead of time, you're just going to get overwhelmed. And I feel like that is a lot of what individuals who are not in finance and don't have a large breadth of understanding around finance, how you might feel when it comes to hearing about different financial accounts like a SEP IRA or a 401k, investment club accounts, KIOs, retail accounts, joint accounts, trusts, limited partnerships, IRAs, and basically you're left with the question of, well, how do I start and where do I go from here? So just to give you that convoluted analogy, where do I start and how do I begin? So again, let's take a step back and try not to eat the whole elephant at once because it really is a lot simpler than that. How do you determine where to start? I think the first thing that you need to do is to really understand your needs. And your needs are going to differ from one person to the next. So if you are an individual, just got out of college, you're just starting out, you probably have more immediate life needs, like maybe finding an apartment and saving, starting a little bit of savings for yourself, securing yourself into a job that will more than likely um, offer a 401k. But essentially, your needs are more home based. So, really, take stock of where you are in your life. If you are a parent who's been working for some time, and you have to plan for what's going to happen next with your family, your needs would definitely differ from that person who just got out of college. And then an extension of that is if you are at a stage where you've been at your job for many, many years and you're ready to retire, but you've never taken time to really plan for your retirement from a financial perspective. All of those different scenarios are going to really play into what you need next in your life. So you need to think about that. And then determine your investment goals from there. Are you looking to um, invest so you can retire? Are you looking to invest so that you can build wealth in order to do other things in life based on your stage in life? Next, I think the best next thing to always do is to talk to someone who's a professional in the field, whether it is an investment advisor, if you don't know one, or if you don't know one who you feel comfortable to speak with. Find someone who is in the banking industry or in the financial industry in some way who could either guide you, point you to the right person, or give you some tips as to where you can start looking to understand. There's a lot of online tools these days, more about finance and more about what it is that you need to be thinking around based on your situation. There are a lot of firms that offer online and even discount brokerage. Discount brokerage is really where you're managing your account on your own, as opposed to you having a live individual like an advisor manage your account for you and give you guidance as to building wealth within your business. If you choose that you'd like to go the route of discount brokerage, then I would definitely recommend making sure that you have a certain comfort level of understanding the market and essentially understanding what it is that you're doing. Um, so I would never really recommend anyone to um, go from not knowing anything about finance and then trying to manage your own portfolio without getting quality advice. If you're going to work with an individual one on one, then try to make sure that you are going with someone that you trust, someone who you feel comfortable with, someone who is showing you that they're going to take the time to understand your needs and your lifelong goals so that you can determine the right type of an account that you should be opening up for yourself. All right, so next, you understand yourself, you understand that you want to, where you are in your life, the stage that you currently are at, and where you need to go. And you're now at that place where you're starting to select the different accounts that will take you there. Before you take that step, I think it's critical to also ask yourself a couple of these questions. Have you really paid down, or are you in the financial situation to get started to invest? So, for example, if you have looming debt where creditors are calling you, and this is definitely an extreme situation, and you have deadlines to pay different bills, are you addressing those first? Are you getting yourself into a place in your life financially where you are managing your debt responsibly so that you can put money away into a savings, into an emergency fund, and as well into an investment account? Those are really important questions to ask yourself. Ultimately, does your overall cash flow situation allow you to put money away, otherwise into an investment vehicle? And if you're not there yet, if you're, for example, just out of college and you're really, whatever you get paid at work is really paying every bill that you have to live, then start saving up money in order to get yourself to a place to invest. I am always going to recommend opening up an investment account at some point in your life, hopefully sooner than later, not because it's what I do in life, but because since it's what I do in life, I've had 15 plus years of experience seeing that these types of vehicles have been such sustainable vehicles in the sense that they help individuals build wealth over a longer period of time, as opposed to, for example, just keeping cash in an account, or an analogy I like to use, under your pillow. So when you're there, when you have a healthy cash flow, and it doesn't mean that you have to pay off all your bills. I want to make sure that I make that clear. But when you have a healthy schedule going with your money, a healthy cash flow situation going with your money, then start saving money with and looking to open an account with even as little as a minimum of $500 to $2,500 to help you get started. And continue to put money into that account, even if it's $50 a month, so that you are continuing to grow those assets. Even if you open up an account with a minimum, you're going to need enough to spread your risk across the right products. So ensure that you are funding that account, you're finding a way to fund that account on a regular basis. One other thing that I think is really, really important to know before you go into the journey of opening up an account for yourself and trying to build wealth is to know that you're not trying to use that money immediately. Every good thing takes time. We take it takes time to develop a good business. It takes time to um, master whatever program or course that you're taking in order to get your degree. Everything takes time, and the market's no different. I'm sure everyone has seen mass fluctuations in the market over the years that you've been exposed to the market. Um, but ultimately, the market is definitely a great place and a great way for you to build wealth in your life. But know that there's no quick result to anything. There are strategies that you may hear others use in order to build wealth in the market quickly. But ultimately, what I'm focusing on is when you are opening up an investment account, whatever type of account that might be, know that, especially if you're younger, if you're just out of college, that that money is really there to build wealth for you over the long term. Not that you can't use it intermittently during that course of time, but it's not something that you don't want to think about it the way you think about a bank account. So keep that in mind. All right, so popular types of accounts, what are they? So we have an individual account. Individual accounts are standard brokerage accounts that usually people open up, if you're just one person. You also have joint accounts. For example, if you have a spouse, the two of you could open up a joint account, which is also a brokerage account, and that houses usually 1 to 3 people. You have various types of retirement accounts that I'm sure a lot of people have heard about. Traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, rollover IRAs, SEP, and simple IRAs. And the list actually goes on, but these are just some to give you an example. What's also important that I should mention is that I'm not going to focus on getting into the detailed characteristics of any of these accounts. If anyone does want to learn more about the different types of IRA accounts and the benefits of any kind of account from one to another, you can definitely reach out to me. You can definitely go online to learn a little more and do some research. But if we were to really dissect all of these in this webinar, it would just be too much information at one time, and I really don't want to overwhelm you. Next, we have custodial or guardianship accounts. And those are accounts such as a Coverdell education savings for a small child. Maybe a lot of you have heard of a 529 plan and guardianship of estate accounts, where you are actually opening up an investment account for the benefit of a young person who is not of age yet to have their own account. And then there are specialty accounts like trusts, whether they're testamentary or non-testamentary accounts. And then finally, business accounts for a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners or large business owners. You have investment club accounts, corporate partnership or limited partnership accounts that people can open up for themselves, again, based on their situation in life. So let's break it down. I thought it might be good to break down the list. If you look at the list of when to use a certain type of account, you'll probably see some redundancy. And that's simply because a lot of different brokerage accounts will serve multiple purposes for one individual. So for example, you can have an individual retail account for yourself. And at the same time, you can have a retirement account. The difference being, besides the tax treatment, that the retirement account is an account where it's locked away for a certain amount of time, whether the tax is deferred before or after. You operate the account for a certain amount of time. Um, it differs from a retail account in that you really can access the retail account at any time, depending on what you're invested in, without the same kind of penalties as you would an IRA. So if you are an individual person, then a lot of times it may make sense for you to open up either a retail brokerage, a Roth or traditional IRA, and then your employer may offer you a 401k as well, which would be great. I always tell people that if your employer does offer you a 401k, it still doesn't hurt for you to have your own retirement account that you can manage either yourself or with a trusted advisor. I mean, this only expands your breadth into the market. For couples, um, again, retail brokerage accounts and retirement accounts are good kinds of accounts in order to start building your nest egg or your family wealth with. Traditional accounts, and then there are joint accounts with rights of survivorship, for example, for couples. And again, not necessarily a joint 401k, but each of you should consider having a 401k as well. And parents with young children, bear in mind, a guardianship account doesn't, you don't have to be the child's parent. They could be your niece or nephew. They could be anyone that you want to, any child that you want to open up a, an investment account for. Mind you, you still would have to have permission from their guardian, their legal guardian, but you can open up an account for a young child. And many times when people do that, they are saving for the child's education, and therefore you can invest in accounts like 529 plans or covered L saving plans. There are retail custodial accounts and then guardianship of estate accounts that you can open up for a small child. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, so I am very, very used to working with individuals who are opening up individual 401ks for themselves if they are a sole proprietor. So if you are the only person in your business, or if you have a spouse who is working in your business with you, then you can open up what's called an individual 401k. What's great about these kinds of accounts is that they actually give you the opportunity to to contribute a lot more. I believe it was 50,000, up to 50,000 in 2015 and 2014 as well into this type of an account, as opposed to the $5,000 maximum that you see in traditional IRA accounts for individuals. SEP IRAs as well, if you are a sole proprietor or if you have a small business with a few employees, KEO plans. And then you also have investment clubs that can open up accounts for the benefit of that outfit. Ultimately, what you're trying to do when you are deciding the right type of an account to open up for yourself is you're trying to create a goals-based approach to your investing. So when you have these accounts, they're all brokerage vehicles. And within them, you will then want to determine the types of products that you're going to invest in. And here's just an example of the types of products that you may invest in so that you can build your wealth or reach your goal over a longer period of time. So a 1 to 3 year horizon, for example, you may put money markets or CDs or treasuries in an account like that. Um, if you are looking at a 3 to 7 year horizon, some investment examples are equities, bonds, individual stocks and bonds, mutual funds, and other fixed income products. And then for a longer term hold on whatever you're investing in the account that you have chosen for yourself are REITs, which are, and again, REITs are more risky. They are called alternative investments. So it would be important to speak to an advisor about something like a REIT to see if you qualify. Commodities, tips, limited partnerships, and hedge funds are all examples. Every time I speak to groups of people about finance, I will always reiterate what your essential goals are. So for long-term investing, look to create a highly diversified portfolio, always. So whether you are choosing a individual retail account, whether you are choosing a joint account, whether it's a retirement plan like a 401k or a traditional or Roth IRA, always look to diversify the products that you're investing in within each account. Select the amount that you are comfortable with to make regular contributions. This is so important. It's great to save, and we also in our firm encourage everyone to have savings and especially to have an emergency fund, which are going to be more immediate funds for you to access. But when in your investment account, the idea is that your money is growing faster than it is in the savings account because the interest that you are earning on the market is therefore earning money on that interest. As we know, it's called compound interest. So Continue to contribute to these investments on a regular basis and as often as you can. A lot of brokerage firms set up what's called an automatic funds transfer or an ACH into whatever account that you've set up for yourself. Not all brokerage accounts will allow it, and those are particularly some of the retirement vehicles. But depending on who you decide to open an account through, check with them, make sure that you can set up an automatic funds transfer into your account. And that is a great way to systematically fund your account and continue to build wealth over time. And last but not least, I would not be who I am and do what I do if I did not encourage people to speak to an advisor to ensure that the strategy that you are building for yourself, that the account that you have set up for yourself, is the right one for you. Feel free to reach out to me. Again, my firm is Papillon Financial. You can email me at pf@papillonfinancial.com, but definitely visit our website at www.papillonfinancial.com. And if not me, then speak to an advisor who you know or someone who is in the financial industry who can either talk to you or point you in the right direction. There are some great online tools as well. So if you just start Googling, a wealth of information will come up. With that said, the internet can be another Century 21 where it's overwhelming. So even if you do choose to go on the internet and do your own fact checking, I think it's important that you then double back and speak to someone who is a professional in the industry who can guide you along the way. Thank you so much for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Shurnette. We had some questions, so I'll get started. This first one here is, I have a lot of different financial goals with different time frames. Should I determine the horizon and then make different investments based on the time frame?
Absolutely. So I would have to really understand a little more about what your financial goals are and what the investment vehicles are that you are considering. Because beyond the market, a lot of people want to invest in real estate, and that's a slightly different animal. But if you sit down with an advisor to open up any kind of an investment account, if you're not being asked what your time horizon is, then you might want to question who you're talking to, because that is literally a question that we have to ask, because we have to understand why we're investing for you so that we can invest in the right products for you. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And can you explain a little more about treasuries?
About treasuries.
Mhm.
so, um, so it depends on what they want to know. Um, so it's like how do I explain it? Like a loan type of an account where you are investing in, it's like you're loaning your money out so that it can be invested and you get a return back on it over a certain period of time. A lot of the treasuries that we have today, like for example, the government has a lot of treasury vehicles that you can invest in, and it's a more secure way of investing your money because you know that it is actually being it has a lot of government structure behind it. So you are investing in or you're loaning your money out, and it's a more secure investment vehicle because you're going to be getting a percentage of earnings back based on what you loan out. That is kind of like a high level explanation of how they work. And that's also to say that they're a more secure type of investment vehicle. And that's also why a lot of people like them.
Okay, great. And another question is, I want to get started investing and have a little money set aside to do it. I have some money in my savings account, but I worry about something like a major medical expense in the future that I'd need to cover. I know I need to start investing, but if something unforeseen happens, is the money I invested not touchable for a certain amount of time?
So, the what I think of when I hear that question is the steps that you have to take before you start investing. So consider to yourself, do I have money set aside that is liquid enough so if I have a medical emergency, I can access that money in order to take care of my medical needs? And that comes in the form of a savings account. It comes in the form of um, an emergency fund. I'm sure everybody's heard that term before. If you are concerned that, like really concerned that you're going to have a medical emergency, or you could potentially have a medical emergency in the future, in the near future, then I wouldn't open an investment account without having a little something set aside in order to address more immediate needs. I have had people say to me, "Well, I can have my brokerage account serve as both. It could be my emergency fund, and it could be my investment vehicle." And what I say to that is, you have to remember that when you are investing in the market, you are taking a risk, regardless. So know that if you put a certain amount of money into a brokerage account, that you are taking the risk of losing your investment. Therefore, I wouldn't recommend using a brokerage account as an emergency fund. I would rather recommend having more liquid funds set aside and also contributing and building out a brokerage vehicle for yourself. With that said, within a brokerage account, you can also invest in products that are more easily accessible, meaning a money market is technically a brokerage product, an investment fee. It's technically an investment product. I wouldn't That wouldn't be the first recommendation necessarily, because money markets aren't really earning a very good yield or a very good percentage, but they technically are investment vehicles, and you can sell out of whatever money market you have your funds in pretty much immediately. They sell out every day, and you can access those funds immediately. And then you have stocks, and then mutual funds. Again, becoming a little, as I go on, the product becomes a little more difficult in the sense that there's a little more time involved to liquidate your assets and take those funds. But there are investment products like stocks, money markets, and then mutual funds where you can get your money back in a reasonable amount of time once you sell.
Okay, great. Well, we want to thank you for a really great presentation today, Shurnette, and thank you to everyone who joined us.
Thank you so much, Maggie. And I hope everyone has learned a little bit more about the different types of accounts that you can start opening up for yourself and what you should really be thinking about before you do.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.